Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Southeastern 14 preview of the Kentucky Wildcats traveling to the Florida Gators for Week 2 of the 2022 college football season. Both of these programs, high expectations in the SEC East, bolstered by wins in Week 1. So we're going to be breaking down this matchup, and not only this one, but every matchup every single week on Southeastern 14. So make sure you subscribe. I'm Blaine Gilmer. Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, they join me on Wednesday nights. We go live on this channel to give more in-depth breakdowns of each and every game, all the trends, all the topics, all the news, all the analysis you could want. So make sure to like and subscribe. And now, without further ado, let's get into this preview of Kentucky traveling to Florida. So in this Week 2 matchup, you have the Gators, who are favored by 6.5 after that win over Utah. When it comes down to it, they just looked outright impressive in terms of what Anthony Richardson can do with that Florida offense. He is the straw that stirs the drink over there. Over 100 yards rushing, was able to get loose against some man coverage. So that is a dynamic that will definitely come into play here, but you see it on September 10th at Florida, another night game in the Swamp on ESPN, just like the game Utah against Utah was as well. In this series, Florida leads at 53-19 all time. The series, though, has gotten much more competitive under Mark Stoops. It is 2-2 since 2018. So you can see Vegas expecting some defense to be played here, with the total set at 51.5. Like I said, Florida is a 6-point favorite in this 6.5-point favorite. The headlines coming into it: two big-time quarterbacks, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. They really, really are the catalyst for these teams in terms of leadership, in terms of production on the field. They are leaning heavily on these two quarterbacks. Both schools are, Kentucky and Florida, respectively. They always say that you make your biggest improvement from Week 1 to Week 2. That's typically the case, but I've got some questions here in terms of the physical toll that Florida's game took on them Week 1. Kentucky had some issues on the offensive line. Can those be corrected? So both teams have some issues that they've got to fix and got to figure out going into Week 2. More so, less of scheme and mistake issues with Florida is making sure their bodies are recovered and healthy after a physical contest. SEC East implications in this one. Both schools hope to challenge up there with Tennessee and with Georgia. Georgia and Tennessee both looking great in Week 1, and we'll have those breakdowns on them. But, of course, this has SEC East implications in this matchup. You have the dudes here, the players on the field that are going to be making the difference. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, well documented, both of them rock stars at the quarterback position. Both of them are receiving first-round hype going into mock draft season, all that kind of stuff for next year. Anthony Richardson did a lot with his legs. I would expect to see Will Levis do more with his legs in Week 2 against the Gators. I don't know if that was by design, that Kentucky didn't really run him as much, maybe didn't want to risk getting him banged up against Miami of Ohio when they knew that they were going to be able to kind of take care of business without having to put him in harm's way, so to speak. But that offensive line, that Kentucky offensive line, you can see them as a key offensive player. The whole group, they got to do better. They gave up 4 sacks on the day. There was lots of twists and stunts that gave them problems. I don't think Florida got to Cam Rising one time. So we're going to see, can that defensive front get more pressure? Can Kentucky's offensive front do a better job of handling some of those games on the defensive front, those stunts, those blitzes that Florida and Billy Napier's defense is going to throw at them? Tavion Robinson showed up and showed out for Kentucky in Week 1. Just really impressive. The question all offseason was, is Kentucky going to be able to replace that production that Wan'Dale Robinson left when he headed to the NFL? Tavion Robinson was impressive. Barry and Brown impressive as well. Really showed off speed on a kickoff return, explosiveness. Him, Dane Key are guys that are going to have to be big and create separation against a talented Florida secondary with, Trey Dean, Rashad Torrance, a lot of those guys over there that are experienced in the back end. They're going to have to really separate. And Kavasier Smoke, they're going to need more production out of him. Only 32 yards. A lot of that starts up front. The thing that I'm most fascinated by in this matchup is you have all of these big time defenders that have been in this Mark Stoops defense for a long time. When it comes to DeAndre Square, when it comes to JJ Weaver, along that front, Jacquez Jones is now there as well at that linebacker position. And man, it's going to be a interesting matchup. Utah didn't have enough speed in the back end to keep up with Anthony Richardson when he did break contain. So you're going to look at a Mark Stoops defense that is very aggressive. Typically, they're extremely aggressive when they go about just trying to attack the opposition. They're not one to sit back and kind of wait for things to come to them and bend but don't break. They're typically very aggressive. So you see here on the defensive side, again, JJ Weaver, I think, is one of the better edge defenders and pass rushers in the league, can do a lot of good things. Alex Afari Jr. and Andrew Phillips both played well in their week 1 matchup against Miami of Ohio. So looking to see how those guys fare against the Florida receivers of Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Henderson, both guys that were targeted heavily by Anthony Richardson, kind of got the most of the targets out of his 24 pass attempts on the day in week 1. And then Montrell Johnson was the second leading rusher behind Richardson himself. So it's going to, him and that Florida offensive line really produced in the fourth quarter, had a great drive there where they were able to run the football and kind of get a lot of momentum there late. So can they keep it up? And that's the thing. The matchup was just so physical between Utah, between Florida. Can they recover in time to take on a Kentucky team that is going to be just as physical as Utah was, and maybe even more aggressive on the defensive side? I think Kentucky has better team speed than Utah has on that defensive side of the ball. So all the players, the matchups. You see Florida, Brenton Cox had a great game in week 1 for Florida. Also Gervin Dexter is there. Big Desmond in the middle of that defense for Florida, 415 pounds, is going to have something to say about Kavasier Smoke and Ramon Jefferson, all those guys trying to get the run game going. Same thing on the other side for Kentucky with Justin Rogers and Oxendine over there on the defensive line. But ultimately, I just question, we talked about culture. It seems like Florida's come a long, miles from where they were under Dan Mullen culture-wise in the first game. But I would caution people and Vegas even is running, it seems like a big-time correction the other way by giving Florida 6.5 in this one, even though they're at home. I'm telling you, I think that it's kind of in between somewhere. I don't know if Florida's as good as they played in week 1. I don't know if Kentucky has as much to work on as they maybe showed in week 1. The question is, did Florida throw everything out there, everything but the kitchen sink, and now they've got more on film? Kentucky's able to hold some cards back, knew they didn't have to show as much going on. So it's going to be interesting to see these two teams take on each other, and the chess match that goes back and forth between Stoops' defense, Napier, a more offensive-minded type guy. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Ultimately, I liked Kentucky more coming into this season. I know they don't have Chris Rodriguez. I think that the physical toll that Florida has to pay for playing two unbelievably physical teams early on, I think it catches up with them here in the second week. It's going to be hard to kind of keep that attitude, that edge, that momentum. I know it's going to bring confidence, but man, you get up so emotionally and win the way they did at the end. Sometimes it's hard to get over that. I think Stoops is going to have a great plan for Anthony Richardson, but you can only hope to contain him. You can't stop him. He's going to get his. Ultimately at the end, I think Will Levis and Tavion Robinson, Dane Key, Berrien Brown end up making enough plays for Kentucky to win this matchup. I got Kentucky winning 27-24 at the Swamp in a big SEC East matchup. And guys, for other full breakdowns, like I said, every game, every week, you need to make sure to check in here on Southeastern 14. Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and myself will be live on Wednesday nights. Go live around 9 o'clock-ish on Wednesday nights, Eastern time. So like I said, I'm Blaine Gilmer. This is your Southeastern 14 breakdown of the Kentucky Wildcats versus the Florida Gators, and we'll catch you on our next preview video.